Hey, I'm John Greaves, the third on Founding Garage Gym in Life, and I love talking shop with other home gym owners. And today I am joined by the very awesome Ashley Hromyak, who is the founder of Go to Grow Fitness LLC. Ashley is a student who is working on her MS in kinesiology. She says she's a home gym muscle expert. She's also an IFBB Pro, though, and that is the thing that we're going to be talking about today. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you, John, for reaching out and asking me to be on your channel. I was very grateful for this opportunity, and I'm happy to be here. So thank you.
You are a very, very busy person. So I'm so glad that we were able to carve out some time for this. And we're going to jump into all things home gym, but specifically home gym and bodybuilding. So if you guys are interested in that topic, you're curious about it, anything like that, where you are going to get hopefully all of your questions answered. And if we don't answer your questions, we're at least going to tell you where you need to go in order to get the answers for those questions. But before we do, if this is your first time on my channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 20,000 subscribers, and I need your help to do it. If you've already subscribed, share this video with somebody else who you think might enjoy the content so that we can continue to grow. All right, let's jump right into this. Ashley, when I saw you at Home Gym Con, you were there not just to enjoy Home Gym Con, but you were also doing a seminar on bodybuilding in a home gym, which is a topic that's really always kind of fascinated me, even though I don't necessarily bodybuild in the conventional sense. So what would you say is the most common, I don't know, challenge that people who want to pursue the sport of bodybuilding or any sort of physique sport, if they're going to do it from a home gym? What's the biggest challenge?
I think the biggest challenge is just lack of creativity or lack of knowing what to do or how they can use different exercises that they don't have in the gym, and how to create that like in the commercial gym, and how to transfer that into an exercise you could do in your home gym.
So when you said lack of creativity, I immediately assumed that you meant that they're going to have to go out and increase the number of gorilla masks and other masks that they have in their collection, because I'm sure that that's got something to do with your level of muscularity and physique development. Am I right?
Yeah, the mask. I mean, I wear those around the neck because I'm the only person in my neighborhood that really works out, and a lot of my neighbors say they enjoy me running around and see me pushing things and pulling things. And I just kind of add a little bit of extra just for their entertainment and viewing pleasure.
Okay. All right. So, now, surprisingly enough, you're not the first person who's a home gym owner who works out and sometimes puts on a mask. There's a guy I interviewed a few years ago named Thomas Lonsdale, and he's actually former Army also, but it's British Army, and he likes to wear a unicorn mask. Now, he hasn't worn it as much since he got married. I guess his wife is like, okay, look, okay. If she's like my wife, when we got married, stuff that I owned when I was a bachelor just started disappearing from the house. like she wouldn't say anything about it. It's just I wouldn't be able to find it. And I'm like, where'd that go? She's like, oh, you can't find it. Oh, okay. But I think that that's something that really kind of sets you apart, because you're comfortable with yourself. And I think that has a lot to play in being able to be successful as a physique athlete, because you're going to be judged on how you look, and not even just how you look, but how somebody else thinks you look from 360 degrees. So it's not like, oh, well, I can just show my best side, or whatever. They're like, okay, no, quarter turn. We want to see it all. You know what I mean? So
yeah, you can't hide anything.
You've got to be confident, and then you're not wearing much clothing. So all of the little tricks that we use to kind of hide, to flatter ourselves, for example, from a, let's say a t-shirt perspective, there's a trick, right? So let me, if anybody's watching this as a video. So from a t-shirt perspective, when you're making a shirt for a man, you want to put the shirt, any wording on the shirt in the chest area, because it makes the shoulders wider and it makes the waist look a little narrower, right? You don't have those tricks when you're just wearing, like, I guess you have sequins. Do the sequins help?
Yeah. I mean, they might help just be a little flashy, but yeah, they don't definitely help cover anything up or minimize or maximize anything.
That goes to the thing that I thought you were going to say would be the biggest challenge, because to me, it's the thing that's the toughest to improve on your own. Just about anything else in a home gym, you can improve on your own. You can research exercises. If you're working by, you can kind of by feel tell whether something's working. Heck, if you're not good at feeling the mind muscle connection, whatever, you can take measurements and say, okay, well, over time, is this working? Um,
Right.
but the thing that I thought you were going to say is the most challenging is posing. Until I met somebody who bodybuilds and who trains in a home gym, and I watched him give a posing clinic to someone, I didn't realize, for example, that when you do the thing where you spread your lats,
Yes.
that you actually don't just spread your lats, that you kind of arch your back a little bit too. And he pointed out that the judges are going to be below you. So if you just flare your lats, you're still not going to look as wide as you want because of where they are in terms of their position on the stage. Are there any other little things like that that people don't know about when it comes to like posing that you have to tell them?
So when you asked your question, and I was answering in regards to like the home gym, but if we're speaking as on bodybuilding as the sport in general, yes, posing is probably one of the hardest parts, just because of you don't really understand how much work goes into it until you're actually doing it. So as you said, the lat spread, then you also have to be able to do some sort of back bend, because you're gonna have to arch at that lower back to so the judges are looking up to you and you're back bending towards them, which is going to create the illusion that your back is wider. And then at the same time, you're doing a vacuum in your core, trying to hold everything in, which you have to be able to build up the tolerance for that, and then flex everything else all at the same time, and keeping a smile on your face and like remembering to breathe. It's a very challenging aspect of bodybuilding.
And so that's why I said, to me, it's so tough to learn that in the home gym, because typically people in the home gym train alone. So if you're posing, I would assume that posing is something that's best done if you have a coach. So to watch you, or at least to say, okay, I want you to work on this. So is that something that you help people with, because you help people with contest prep?
Yes, I do posing, and a lot of it, most of it is virtual. So it'd be like a Zoom or a FaceTime where, like we're doing right now. And then I take screenshots and then send them like, hey, this is what you did wrong. And then I screenshot, like, this is, I correct them and cue them verbally, and they fix it. And then I give them that feedback so they know what right looks like and they know what wrong looks like, and they can grow on that.
Yeah, because I remember, like everyone else who's into this, I've seen Pumping Iron. And I remember the scenes where they were in the mirror and you had, they were giving feedback back and forth. Like my favorite one is the one where Arnold was telling the guy, I have no idea what this pose is called, right? But he had one arm up in the air and the other one was here. The guy was like that. And Arnold says, no. He said, because you're a smaller guy, you tend to close yourself up. And he said, you need to open up. You need to open up, right? So how much tougher is it to do that on Zoom or FaceTime than it is in person, where you can kind of give you some kinesthetic awareness techniques where you can touch them and say, hey, no, like this. No, like this.
It's way tougher because, yes, I am hands-on, and sometimes with the most challenging pose that I've dealt with clients is that lat spread, because they most of the time they retract their scapulas when you're supposed to protract and just create space, make it wider. And me having my hands and kind of helping them push their scapulas apart has made a difference, whereas I can't really do that when we're on the computer. So in person for posing, even if it's just a few sessions initially, does have a lot of value over Zoom.
So, and this is where I said there'd be some intersection with Home Gym Con. When I was talking to Jake, one of the suggestions I made to him was, I said, I thought that was a great thing, having the bodybuilding in a home gym seminar. But it seems to me that this would actually be a great opportunity to have a posing clinic for people who bodybuild at home. Even if they have you as a posing coach virtually, hey, I'm going to be at this place for 2 days. Let's have a posing clinic at some point during those 2 days. Like, I don't know if you are familiar with it, but so Robbie Robinson was the first person I heard of doing this, where it was like he had a thing where he advertised spend the weekend with him. And you'd go to where he is in California, you'd eat breakfast with him, you train with him, and then he'd have a 2-day posing clinic. And all he did was just walk around and just work on this for hours. And he said, we had to split it into 2 days because you end up so fatigued.
Yes.
Because that's something that, I don't compete in bodybuilding or anything like that. And so it never occurred to me how tough just posing is.
Posing is a workout in and of itself.
Have you found that posing ends up helping you kind of bring out a little bit of separation and
Yes.
not necessarily density, but just some separation.
Hardness.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, having that really hard muscle contraction does make a difference when you're on stage to give that muscle look a little bit like fuller and harder.
So for those who are physical culture nerd historians like I am, there's a guy called Maxick, and he was in a situation where his parents thought that lifting weights was bad for you. And they were very concerned about him hurting himself. So they wouldn't allow him to buy any weights. So he started doing this thing called muscle control. And there are actually cool old books. And so if you like read the books, you see that some of the techniques he talked about are similar to what you guys do on stage now, where
Yeah.
you're doing it for presentation purposes, but that's actually what he used to develop his physique. And so I love seeing how the different things connect with each other in order to like make this huge tapestry that ends up being this iron game that we love so much. The other thing is diet. Because you're by yourself in a home gym, it's very easy to slip and think you're fine. Whereas if you go into a public gym, at some point somebody's going to be like, hey, especially if they're like friends with you, maybe, hopefully, that somebody's just not going to randomly walk up to you and say something. But you don't have that feedback from people, like as a physique competitor, where you're going to be taking your shirt off, as Fexuito used to call it, peeling off. And then you're standing there and they're judging you week to week, like, hey, okay, I noticed this or whatever. I know Instagram exists, but it can still be very insular because I get to choose what I put on Instagram. So how do you guys just do check-ins with the people that you coach to make sure they're on track?
Yep. Which requires, you to do your photos in your stage competition suit or, minimal athletic attire, and you have to be accountable. And a lot of people don't like it because it's uncomfortable, but that uncomfortableness is because like, hey, we're going to grow from this. So embrace that, lean into that discomfort, take the photo, because that's how I'm going to help you get better. I self-coach. So for my competition, so I do the same thing. I put my coaching hat on and I take my check-in photos myself, and then I assess my physique, and then I put my, client hat on during the week, and then I hit the grind and do what I have to do, and then reevaluate. It's just having that accountability and being okay with being uncomfortable. Like, yeah, this isn't, maybe, I'm a little embarrassed because I'm holding a little bit of fat, but at the same time, there's a reason for every season, and you have to, understand that you're working towards the end point, and this physique today isn't what it's going to be next week and the week after. It's just a quick moment in time, and it's going to change.
So I heard a very smart person say you're capable of more than you know. And then she put it on a sign in her garage. And I'm just looking at it over your shoulder. Yeah. So I'm wondering if you put the sign there as a reminder to yourself or as a way to remind your clients.
Oh, so remind both, because I do both in-person training here, and then I also have an app to do online training. But same with the online training, they get like little mindset assignments every week to kind of help build their mindset and their mental shift of how they view themselves, so that we don't get caught in this destructive loop, and that I keep reinforcing good, healthy habits.
I want to talk about something that we had a brief conversation about that touches on that. You were talking about grit, and that's actually something you're working on. You're working on your master's, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's I think it's part of your research project. It's the concept of grit and the role it plays in success. Talk to me about that. Like, what do you think grit is, and how is it revealing itself as a measure of possible success?
Okay, so here we go. So I'm doing.
I feel like I need to take notes. She got come. So, all right, now.
So yeah, most of my work in my master's program is on the relationship between grit and physical activity. And for those who don't know, grit is defined by Angela Duckworth. She's the doctor that kind of initially came up in the research of grit, and it's defined as passion and perseverance towards a goal long-term while overcoming obstacles. And the relationship with physical activity is that gritty people tend to have higher intensity physical activity, less time sitting, more time engaged in physical fitness, whereas less gritty people the opposite. They spend time sitting. They are not goal driven. Grit is both nature versus nurture. So some people are born with it genetically. They just have a gritty personality, and other people you can develop it by overcoming obstacles throughout your lifetime. So as we age, our grit score does increase.
Because you've gone through stuff and
Yeah,
survived it. So now you know, you're like, it's like a muscle.
Yes, any life experience. So even those who are doing ice baths, if you choose to stay in the ice bath or ice shower and embrace that uncomfortableness even for 30 seconds, you're going to build grit, which is going to be transferred into other aspects of your life. I'm doing my research on physical activity, but if your goal goes from physical activity to you want to run a successful business, it's transferable. Once you develop that skill, it's there. Like, you can just make it get better and better and better. So I tell people, like, in order to develop grit, have your goal. And then when you have an obstacle, like, let's think of ways you can overcome this and move past this instead of hitting that wall and most people just quit. It's like, no, keep on failing. If you stack up all my failures next to my successes, I have more failures, but what everyone sees is those successes. And that's because I fail it. And that doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just means the way I did it wasn't the right way to accomplish it. I need to try another way. And people need to adopt that mindset that, like, just because you failed at doing that one time, okay, now you know what not to do. Try something else.
I think learning how capable you are, and you are a veteran of the United States Army. You're airborne, right?
Yes.
All right. So you like jumping out of planes. Okay. So one thing that I noticed when I joined the Marine Corps and after is how addictive it can be to find out you can do something. And what I then noticed when I've done one obstacle course race, partially because I like to collect experiences, and partially because it was something my wife was kind of interested in. And so, like, I ran her first 5K with her. And so we did this obstacle course race together. I was like, okay, just get out of it. But the thing that I noticed about doing it was, I was like, this is like a collection of everything I did in boot camp, but in one day. Why are these so popular? And I think that our culture kind of wants to condition you to move towards comfort. And I feel like there's almost a rebellion against it for people who do it the hard way, even when it's not necessary to do it the hard way. Do you find that as your clients overcome challenges, they start developing grit? Like, they're like, okay, hey, can I keep the diet going just a little bit longer?
Yes. And I have a couple of people I'm currently working with in person. Every week I make it a little bit harder. And like this past week, this Monday, I exposed her to some pretty advanced training movements, and she was dying. And she's like, man, this is the hardest workout I've ever done. But then 2 days later, she messaged me. She's like, I'm so sore, but I feel so good that I was able to get through it, that, like, I didn't quit, and that, I want to do that again. So 100% that if it's done the right way, where you don't throw, kind of like the obstacle course, it has to be something that's challenging, but not something that's going to make them feel defeated. It has to be at a good level where they can reach that uncomfortable zone and lean into it. And then, learn that, oh, I can do this, and succeed and build that confidence. If you throw, too much at someone too soon, then they're going to get overwhelmed and they're going to be immediately shut down and quit. So it's just kind of understanding how to read the person. And then, but once you do and you figure that out, it's magic.
So it's interesting because I don't know what they call it in the Army, but then in the Marine Corps, they call it a confidence course. Yes. They don't call it an obstacle course.
Yep.
It's civilians who call it an obstacle course. And it's ironic because I said I've done one. I had no emotional need to do it again. And my wife and I were talking about it. We were sitting out having iced coffee afterwards. And I said, I guess the reason why I'm not addicted to it. I don't need to go back and do it again. It's because when we were going into it, I never thought I couldn't do it. And I think for some people who, when they first do it, like, there's that fear, like, maybe what if I can't complete it? What if I die or whatever? And so when they find out they can do it, they're like, oh, I want to do that again. That's a rush, right? But you and I have already, like, proven that to ourselves. That's like, okay, great. So I didn't get that endorphin rush. To me, it was just like, oh, okay, that's something I did. Yeah. It was Saturday. I did it. Okay. The things that now like I'm building grit in, I would say, are just doing like what I do with Garage Gym Life. Because every day I'm like, I don't know if I can, if this is going to work. And, you know, there's this huge, huge temptation to go lay down or watch TV or whatever I guess normal people do, you know, that's
Yeah.
not, yeah. Do you find that that's the case for you too? Because you're building a, you're not only doing your master's degree, you're running a business, you got all this stuff going on, you're training clients, and you have a career as an athlete of your own. You've got obligations to sponsors.
Yeah.
So you're like juggling 6 balls in the air while balancing on another one all at the same time every day. But is that kind of like every night you go to bed like, yeah, I did that. I made
Yes.
it through somehow. You know what I mean?
Yes. I love always being challenged and seeing what I'm capable of. And every day I'm one of those people that wait, I'm a morning person and I wake up and I'm just like, hey, there's another opportunity for me to get the most out of my day and my experiences that I can. So I push it and I make sure I check all my blocks off and do my best, because then it sets me up for more openings the next day and the next day. And then, I mean, my everything in home gym con opened tons of doors for me. I mean, the stuff that I have coming in and networking with that, I mean, I'm so busy, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. I mean, TV will be there for me when I retire.
Nice.
Right now, like I'm not missing anything because that's all recorded. It's, you know, it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Yeah.
my time is what is going to go somewhere, and I'm going to use the most of it and get as much as I can done every day. And I love it. I'm so grateful for all of it.
You are a member of Street Parking, which is an organization I love. I'm a huge fan of Miranda and Julian. I thought that they were going to be huge when I first interviewed them or interviewed Miranda in, I think, 2017, back when I was still blogging. But I love what they've done for functional fitness / CrossFit or whatever, and the home gym community. I think what they've built is amazing, right? So you do street parking, you do yoga, but you're a physique competitor. And normally I find that bodybuilders are hesitant to try stuff like that. They're afraid they'll get hurt. They're afraid it's going to kind of just like, okay, well, I need to focus on my body parts split because of whatever. What is it that makes you feel that freedom to not only turn your training over to somebody else because they're doing workouts of the day, but then add in yoga and all the other things?
I will say that, you know, my undergrad is in kinesiology and coaching, and I have my
CSCS.
Yes, and I'm a registered yoga teacher, and then I graduate my master's in December. And I would say that understanding the physiological and physical adaptations for fitness allows me to do things and program it in a way, or execute it in a way that is beneficial for how I want the outcome to be. So like for street parking, for example, some of the workouts, I'm like, okay, this isn't going to fit my goal. So I'll like mend 1 or 2 exercises and so cater it so that it will be productive for my training.
I've done bodybuilding workouts, and every time I've worked out with someone who competes in bodybuilding specifically, I end up with so much lactic acid buildup. The last time I allowed this to happen to myself, I couldn't straighten my arms the next day, or the day after that, or the day after that. Like they were permanently bent at 90 degrees. I said, am I going to be bent at 90 degrees for the rest of my life? Because it was an arm day. And I was like, after the workout, I said, didn't I tell them I wanted to work upper back? How did we end up doing bicep work? How do you manage that DOMS? Is that what the yoga's for? It helps you, that in the ice bath, to help you recover from it?
A little bit. So yoga, I'm a huge yoga person because I feel as though it can benefit every single person who is into fitness at all, because it forces you to get strong in your weak points and the end ranges. There's a purpose to every pose, physically and physiologically. So some of them help with lymphatic drainage. Some of them help with blood flow. Some of them help cleanse. And I find that it makes people a better lifter because it forces them to be not only stable, but mobile and flexible. There were things that I couldn't do before I started yoga in 2018 that now I can do. The movement patterns are so clean and so strong that I'm not worried about injury because I've built up those weak areas.
Okay, give me an example.
My shoulder stability and scapulas, right? A lot of people don't have strong scapulas, their traps take over, or they have like a winged scapula because they're not holding certain movements or doing the little movements to make the stabilization of the scapula stronger. Therefore, their traps are taking over and they're always like, wait, why are my traps so big? Well, it's because those little muscles in your scapula aren't strong enough to hold them down. So your trap takes over, you elevate, and then all your upper body movements become trap day, which yoga
Oh.
focuses on, the like shoulder blades down and back, and then holding them in that position while you're going through certain movements.
So let's talk about lymphatic drainage. How does that help you as a lifter, as an athlete? Because I know somebody's like, okay, yoga, all right, I can skip ahead to the next part. No, 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 don't skip ahead, because I want to talk about how that makes you better. Like, how does that help your recovery process? How does that make you better?
So let's just think of your lymphatic system as a very busy roadway, and there's tons of construction and snow and ice and lots of cars, and it's all clogged up and congested. And
Yeah.
then, lymphatic drainage, or helping that along, would be kind of like a giant snow plow or street, cleaner that kind of comes back and just cleans everything up and pushes it and moves it out so that your body can get rid of it, the waste and toxins, and help everything just flow a little bit better. So it kind of opens up the traffic highway of your body.
How would they see the benefit of that?
Oh, you would feel better. You would have, your pee is going to be a lot more clear. You're gonna have better rest and sleep, and you're just gonna overall feel better. You're not gonna feel slow and just kind of like a congested roadway.
I really want people to be able to take advantage of the services that you offer. We don't have nearly enough time in a video that is this short to be able to unpack all of it. So if somebody's interested in developing their physique, maybe they're curious about competing in one of the physique sports, or they just want to know more about your training and your philosophy. They want to learn more about grit. How can people get in touch with you? How can they follow your training on social media? Go ahead and give them all your information.
On social media, on Instagram, I'm Ashley the Amazing. If you follow me on there, then there's a little email button where you can email me, contact me. Pretty much just go through that route because it makes it way easier. Go to my link tree and access me there.